Hi, and welcome to Appalachian Traditions, a virtual discussion of traditional Appalachian crafts, music, and dance. I'm Darcy Holdorf. I'm the program director here at the John C. Campbell Folk School, and thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted to have Mary Dornbos with us and Helen Gibson, who are here to discuss the Brasstown Carving program. So we are coming to you live today from the porch at the Woodcarving studio on a beautiful fall afternoon here at the Folk School campus. And I would like to introduce you to Mary Dornbos. She was the craft manager here at the John C. Campbell Folk School for 23 years. She has an MFA in metalsmithing and is a talented basket maker and artist in her own right. As craft manager, she worked with many carvers over the years, and she has a lot of incredible stories to tell about the carvers, about the history, about their families, and her own experience in marketing and selling their work as a pivotal role with the Brasstown Carving program. So she's going to be discussing carving with Helen Gibson, and I will introduce Mary. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome, Darcy. It's so great to be here on the porch of the carving studio with Helen. And we are social distancing right now, and so y'all can hear us better. We are going to take off our masks. That way we can all communicate a little better. As you all know, carving, or maybe you don't, carving began at the folk school in approximately 1930, from what some of my reading has told me. And it started because Olive saw many of the men from Brasstown whittling on sticks and on benches and this sort of thing, and she thought if they could do that they could certainly learn to carve. So with that goal in mind, the carving began, and Murray Martin was one of the primary people who instructed the carvers early on. Helen Gibson is our resident woodcarver. She's nationally known as a renowned carver, and she has had a huge influence on the history of carving here at the folk school. Her carvings are magnificent, and it's just so nice to have Helen here. We haven't talked for a while, so I have a bunch of questions for you, Helen.
Okay.
When did you start carving?
I started carving when I was about 11 years old.
Okay.
My mother carved.
Okay.
My grandmother sanded carves. I carved napkin rings.
All right. All right.
For years.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of people start.
Yep.
With the
napkin rings.
Yes. So you really grew up in carving.
Yes, I did.
And so do you think that really made you want to be a carver? Or was it just something that came naturally to you?
Well, my mother carved, so yes, I wanted to carve too. And we had a neighbor, Fanny Ivester, that carved, and she helped me a lot with my carving.
Yeah.
And then we'd come into the folk school. Mary Martin was, that's when we was over in the Keith house. Mary helped us. So that's how I got started.
Well, I think Murray was a amazingly good teacher.
She was.
And she just seemed to, the results that she got from her teaching to me were astonishing.
Yep.
And what were some of the things that you've learned from her, do you think?
Oh, well, that'd be hard to say.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
yes.
a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I remember hearing stories, and she even told me that because I was fortunate enough to be here when she was still around, and I really enjoyed talking to her. Even though she couldn't hear, we could write questions, and she would answer. She would answer them. She really wanted people to look at what they were carving in the real. So if people were carving chicken, she would bring a chicken in and tell people who are trying to carve it to really look at them and look at the proportions and
Yep.
the textures and all that kind of thing. And I think that made such a big difference. Who else were your teachers?
Jack Hall.
Okay.
And I started teaching or learning to do the nativity figures with Jack.
Okay.
Miss Martin asked Jack to try to teach some of us.
Okay.
So one or two of us was willing to do that.
To learn the crash.
Yep.
When was that? How old were you? Or
I don't remember how old I was. I know I had 3 little boys.
Okay. Yeah.
So she would give us the napkin rings, and we would take them home and carve them, bring them back in 2 weeks, and then she would look them over, and if she thought they needed something done to them, she'd send them back home with us.
All right.
But we finally figured out, we thought she just liked for us to stay down there and talk to her. So
I can
anyway,
see that too.
But yeah, she was good carver. Good teacher.
Yeah. And she didn't really carve that much herself.
I don't think she did. Now I did see some pieces that she had made, and I think Jack Hall helped her some.
Oh, really?
With carving.
Because I remember once her showing me a carving that Olive had carved. And I was quite astonished kind of by that, surprised.
Yeah.
And but she said it was probably the only thing Olive carved, but she helped her with it, and so she even touched into that. So a lot of people did say that Murray was a hard teacher, and some people just didn't.
Well, she wanted you to do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had very high standards.
And we had to sand.
And sand more and more and more. Yeah.
She made me do roosters and hens. And there's out of walnut and cherry.
Oh my gosh. So such hard wood
it
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is.
Yes. But so pretty when
it
they
is.
were finished.
Yeah.
I love the walnut and cherry rings and all the carvings. Which leads me to another question that I was thinking about when I was preparing for this is it seems like the availability of good wood has really disappeared in this area.
Yeah.
In the even the relatively short period of time I've been here, we used to be able to get wonderful wood very economically, and now it seems like it's really hard to find the good wood.
I order my basswood for the Mary and Joseph things. I order it from a guy in Minnesota.
Okay.
And it comes plain, smooth, and ready to use.
Go. And very clear.
Yes.
It doesn't have any of the figuring or anything in it, which some of the other carvings that we have made in my time did. And it added character, but I think it did, because of the wood not being as good, did sort of take away sometimes a little bit. And it was also harder for the carvers to carve at times. Yeah. So Murray was working right along with Jack at that time. Okay. What were some of the first things that you carved other than the napkin rings?
Well, the stars and different kinds of ornaments. And then I started on the nativity figure, and then St. Francis. Jack, I made the first St. Francis with Jack.
Okay.
And so it just, went from there.
Went on and on. You just kept excelling and becoming a better and better carver. That's awesome. What is the process of creating a figure? I mean, you start out with the block, and then you cut down the block. Tell us about what the process.
Well, I mark what I'm going to, like the Mary, out on a piece of basswood, and I've got a bandsaw, and I go and saw that out, and then I use a coping saw to knock all the edges off I can. And we used to use holly, so we really had to get all we could off. It's hard,
Yes.
but that's kind of how I get started.
Okay. Okay. And when you've designed a couple figures yourself and written the books.
The Jesus in the Garden and Moses, and I guess that's kind of it for the books.
So what gave you the idea for the Moses?
I'd always wanted to do something like that, and when Harold Enlow come here one time and taught a class, I asked Harold if he would draw me a pattern for the Moses. He did. He drew the pattern and saw the blank out for me, and then I took a class with him and made the Moses, and then started from there.
Wow. Wow. That is such a strong figure. So striking
Yep.
to me.
Yeah, I like to do the Moses.
Yes. Yes. It's like he's looking at you whenever, wherever you are. We've had him in the shop. What do you enjoy about carving the most?
Well, I can do it at home when I want to. I've got a full basement, and I've got plenty of windows and light, so I get down there and carve. I've got a wood heater down there in the wintertime. It'll run you out of there when you get a fire going. But I just get down there and carve. Yep.
It's a wonderful thing to be doing. And it shows how much you like it when you see the result.
Yep.
I
used to teach some classes in my basement, and
I remember that.
Yeah, we had a lot of people come. Actually, we got so many one time we had to divide the class, and I miss seeing the people. That's what I miss the most.
Yes. Yeah. But you really were the one who, with me in my role in the shop, you would send me the people that you thought were good enough to become Brasstown Carvers. I always relied on your opinion and your standards because I knew you had learned from the best. Yeah. So when your mother carved, what was she carving?
She carved napkin rings, and she carved little ducks. And I've got one of the little ducks. It's a little with the wings kind of up. They was going through some of the stuff at the folk school one time, and somebody found a piece, and it had her initials on the bottom. So they saved it and give it to me. Wow. So that's the only piece I got.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice. Because you didn't save anything at that time.
At that time,
brought it in to get some money from it and just went on to the next one.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what an influence the carving has had on all of the people who carved to me.
Yeah.
It made such an influence on them personally because they took pride in it and getting better at it. But it really made a huge difference in their lives early on economically.
Yeah.
Because it gave them another source of income.
Well, now it gives me I can supplement my income with the carving. So
So you are still doing that, and most of the carvers still did that I worked with. It was a nice little bit of money that they had to do with what they wanted to. That didn't have to go immediately into the household, or even if it did, it was a wonderful thing.
When we carved the napkin rings, starting out, there's 10 cents a piece. That's what we got for them.
And what did they sell them for?
Well, they didn't sell them for a lot because, they shipped those napkin rings out everywhere,
Oh, I know they did. They're all over. Some of the best stories that I've heard about carving when I've gone out to the Southern Highlands Guild Fair and so forth is that people would come up to me and into the booth, and sometimes you would be there with me and Carolyn, and people would say, I remember using napkin rings at my grandmother's house, and they would be adult people who were buying these napkin rings for themselves or their children to keep the tradition passed on. It was very meaningful to them. Very meaningful. And it's just always was fun hearing the stories about carving. The way the creche worked, maybe you could explain that to us a little bit. People basically subscribed
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah, and sometimes they'd just get one piece a year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, take them a few years to get it all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would say to me, I would get so excited when I saw that box coming through the door, and we would wonder which piece we were getting this time. And that really provided a nice income, I think, for the folk school to a certain degree. Maybe not income as much as notoriety,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because the carvings just spread all over the U.S. and beyond.
Everywhere you go, people know about the folk school. I was down in Brunswick, Georgia one time teaching a class, and I stayed with this lady, and when I walked in the door, the foyer, she had a big cabinet sitting there, and she had the Glen Brown geese sitting up there, and she found them in a yard sale.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now there's a lot of competition, I know, on eBay and places like that, where people are looking for carvings and collecting them and battling with each other online to who can get it, raising the price. And I think that's such an exciting thing to see, because people
really
are
is.
paying attention again to how incredible they are. They're such a strong legacy.
Yeah.
How do you think, Helen, and this is an how do you think carving changed your life? You've always been a carver.
I've always I don't know, it's just always been there for me.
You.
Yeah.
And it gave you a lot of opportunities to travel and meet different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I did have, in later years, I started traveling, and I went to Alabama and like Brunswick, Georgia, and we down on St. Simon's Island. Got to go a lot of places.
Nice.
And teach classes.
Yes. And people would invite you to come and do it.
Yep.
Right. Right. Oh, wow. So very exciting. It's just my wish that we can just keep all of this up and continue to build carving.
I hope so.
Now, as we're approaching our 2nd century, it's good to look back at all the old carvings that were done, but it's also a good motivation to get it going again, I think.
I wish there was more young people.
Me too.
Trying to do it. Yeah.
And I think that there will be.
Yeah.
I think there are. There will be. I think offering the sort of carve-in classes on Thursday evening that Richard Carter and you and Helen did, invited our work studies and other people from the community.
Yes.
And that has, I think, really broadened understanding of the carving too, don't you?
I do. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah. It makes it much more accessible. So this is another interesting question for you. How do you think aging has affected your carving as you've gotten older? You've had to overcome different things to keep carving as well as you do.
Yeah. Well, your hands, you get arthritis in your hands and everything. And at one time, I was teaching so many classes, this finger got to where I couldn't even bend it. But when I quit going and teaching classes, it's nearly better.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because I remember that time when you just were really having difficulty, and I'm glad that's better now.
It is.
You had to cut back a little, I know.
Yeah.
You probably miss teaching those classes, but it was worth it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Helen, why don't you do some carving?
Well, okay.
Tell us how you're going about doing that.
This is the baby blank. That's how it starts out. And this is the Mary and Joseph. That's how they start out. And so I'll start with a V tool and come across here to get that started. It's easy to break out here on the end.
Mm-hmm. You can tell that you've done this a lot.
Yes, a lot.
Oh,
Well,
you make it look so
yeah.
easy.
When I first started out, all I had was an old pocket knife.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack Hall made me a little U-gouge out of an ice pick. He cut it off and he
Yes,
curved it. And
rounded
that's,
it.
yep, that's how I started. That's how the tools I had when I started.
I think that was part of the beauty of it, though, because most people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
at the beginning of the carving, everybody had a knife
Mm-hmm.
kind of that they used.
They did.
And so they didn't need any kind of special
We didn't have
fancy tools or anything. They could just.
we didn't have any gouges, you know, anything like that.
It just amazes me how high the quality was with the limit of the tools that were had at that time too, that they were using. So do you carve everything from start to finish, or do you do it in stages and move?
I carve till I get tired of sitting downstairs carving.
Okay.
And then I will get up and go upstairs and just rest.
And then you start again.
Mm-hmm.
Are you really opening up that quickly?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I usually will draw where the baby's head's going to be so that I don't,
So you're
you know,
careful. Yep.
so that I don't get that.
How many creche do you think that you have made over the years?
I wish I had kept up with it, but I
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah.
I have, I'd
Yeah.
say hundreds.
Yeah. No.
Maybe 1,000.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are in demand, Helen, because you are a master at this. So, have any of your sons gone on to carve, or is anybody in your family interested in continuing the tradition?
Well, my middle son used to carve some ornaments, but he builds houses and things like that now. So
yeah. It seems that a lot of the carvers, once they retire, have more time.
They
to
do
really do it.
Mm-hmm.
That was my experience with a lot of the carvers who came on in my time there.
Yeah.
Is that they had wanted to do it, never really had the time to make that much other than for themselves or a family member. But once they retired, then they could sit with it.
Yeah.
And really pay attention.
Have more time.
So really, when you're sharpening your knives, that's a big part of
it
high
is
quality.
Yeah. If you've got a dull knife, well, that's when you get cut.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're putting more pressure on it when
it's not
yeah.
sharp.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
that makes sense. That makes sense. fascinating to watch you work like this. I know what it's going to look like already. So how many tools do you use on one piece of carving? I mean, I'm seeing 4 right here, but then you have...
I use, yeah, these 4 that I've been, and then when I start on the face, I do the little dockyard tools.
They're tiny.
Yeah, I've got 3 that I use to do the faces. The baby's face is so little that it's real tricky to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. And what are those tools called?
These are the little dockyard.
Dockyard.
Yeah, the little.
Is that the maker who makes them?
Well, yes, I guess it is.
Okay. Neat. They're so tiny.
They are, and the first time when I went with Tom Wolfe up to Pennsylvania to do the first book, and he called Woodcraft, and Woodcraft sent me a set of the tools and a set of these.
Oh, how nice!
And some of them, those little ones, I'm still using.
That was a long time.
You have to be real careful with them.
Yes.
It's easy to.
Yeah.
You know, if you hit them, nick them up against a piece of metal, it dulls them.
Who were some of the carvers that inspired you?
Well, Mary Martin, Jack Hall, and a neighbor, Fanny Ivester.
Right.
And just a lot of the carvers. Ray Mann, he done the sheep and the goats and lambs.
So you just had a lot of inspiration from many different people.
Oh, yeah. We used to come in, Miss Martin would have us to come in, and we would sit all around the tables down there and carve. And then one time up here in the carving studio, when Gladys Rogers was here, we would carve, and then we would all bring something to eat, and we'd have our meal.
Oh, how nice.
That was real nice.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nice.
And you really looked at things and said how you could do them better and compared.
Yeah. You learn a lot, really. I learn a lot from students that takes my class.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure. Yes.
Yes, I sure do.
I think those of us who teach, their teachers are their students usually. So now, how many years have you been the resident here at the folk school?
Well, Ron Hill was the director then, and we had the apprentice class going when he was here.
Yes.
So I've been here for almost all my life. But when I started teaching, I guess I was probably 18, 20, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a long legacy of teaching yourself
Yeah.
and many students. It's awesome. We're seeing this baby come out of the piece of wood. I love it. So what's your finishing process when you...
Well, I sand it with 3 different grits sandpaper.
Okay.
Then I put, I use a finish, Deft, and I put the first coat on and let it dry, sand it down with real fine sandpaper.
So you sand in between?
In between each coat. Put 3 coats on it.
That makes the difference, I think.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Wow.
Yeah. You get a good finish.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Lots of work.
It is.
You have to have patience.
Yeah. This lady over in Coker Creek, her and her husband she done weaving and taught weaving, and he done baskets, and she said, we just needed to educate the people to, how long and how hard it was
Yes.
to get these pieces
Yes.
done.
Yes.
Sometimes people see a small piece like this and you tell them it's $30 and they think that's real high.
Right, right.
But it's, you know, it's just in letting people know.
Well, you get relativity on that
You
when
do.
someone
Mhm.
tries to carve
Yeah.
and realizes
Mhm.
how.
Yeah.
Years ago when I was in Tennessee, there was a lot of split white oak basket makers there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like there are carvers here. And students would come in and they'd look at these baskets
Mhm.
and they would cost $75 or $85.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mm.
they would go, "This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This shouldn't cost this much."
Yeah, I've thought the same thing myself.
You know, and then people would take the class and start trying to do it. And they were like, "Well, how does he sell them so cheaply?"
Yep.
You know, it's all,
Mhm.
it's
I
all
know it.
relative. Once you know the work and the patience involved. So you're beginning kind of getting a suggestion of the
Yeah,
face.
the baby's
now.
face. Mhm. I always put a little hair. Somebody said one time, a baby does not have that much hair. And I said, well, now I had a grandbaby that did.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, I just like to, it's easier to start out putting the hair on.
Well, I remember Hope Brown, who
Yeah.
I really loved Hope, and she taught me so much.
Mhm.
But she always told me this story about Murray Martin would look at her babies and say, "Hope, you need to have another baby because these babies are looking too old."
Yeah.
And she had many children.
Well, I can remember her telling one time Jack Hall had brought in a Mary, and
Mhm.
after he left, she carved the boobs down a little bit. She thought he had got them a little too big.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I also love this story. I didn't hear it till we got together for one of these Appalachian Heritage meetings in January, where Hoyt Brown,
Mm-hmm.
who is a carver and an excellent one in his own right, told the story about his dad carving. And he would bring home blocks. And one day, Hope picked up one of the blocks, which was of a cat, and she carved the cat. So the next time he brought it in to present, to critique, and that sort of thing with Murray, she said to Glenn Brown that he needed to bring in the person who carved that cat because she knew he hadn't.
Yeah.
And so that is how Hope, I guess, started carving.
Yeah.
And got involved with things.
Now, this is when the big guns come out.
I love it.
Oh.
Precise seeing and carving.
Yep.
With those wonderful little tools. Wow. The face is appearing. where you're shaping the little details of
Mhm.
the face right now.
Start on the eyes.
Was it primarily women who were carving when you started out, or was it a mixture of men?
It's a mixture. Oh, it's a mixture.
It's really fun to see this come alive here.
Well, it could be better if I was at home by myself.
Well,
People are watching, I get nervous.
well. Do you think that carving, Helen, has a future as far as people being able to take the time to really spend and work on something like this? I guess that's a
yeah.
bigger question for all craft.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We've kind of lost the young people around here because it's you can't make a living at it anymore.
Right,
So you don't have
right.
people trying it. But I believe it's like with Richard having those classes on Thursday night. There's still a lot of people that's interested
Very
in carving.
interested.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, there is.
And I think what you said there too about you can't make a living at it, but so many people in those early decades, it made a huge difference in the quality of their life.
Oh yeah.
They were able to keep their kids in school longer if they wanted it, and have bigger homes, or anything that was extra kind of was suddenly attainable. And I think that was a really good motivation too, of course.
Sure was.
Made a big difference. I remember Nolan Beaver, when I'm so glad I got to know some of these carvers before they were gone. But he always said, as a young man, he could make $1 a day carving, but if he were in the field, they would only pay him 75 cents a day. So he said, I would rather be carving, and then I could have fun at night, and I wouldn't be so tired, and I'd still make more money.
Yeah.
And I remember he used to tell me also that he was a railroad man, is that, I believe, and so when he was not in this area, he would send carvings back to the folk school.
Yeah. Well, we used to, when we would go somewhere and demonstrate, I never did like to talk much.
Yes.
And if Nolan went with us, we didn't have to open our mouths.
Right. Oh, I know. He had the best
He loved
stories.
to tell the stories.
He had the best stories. Yes.
It'd been great if we'd have got him on tape.
I know. He was very entertaining.
And he was a good carver.
Oh my gosh.
Those least ones that he done.
Those miniature ones
Yep.
were just astonishing.
I still have some of his.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. I
Sure
brought
do.
my husband about 12 of them over the years.
Yeah.
And I consider them some of the best in my collection.
Yes.
Little tiny. And he would be wearing the optivisors the whole time. I remember visiting him at his home.
Really?
And he really could do detail work that was extraordinary. But I can see he was full of funny stories.
Yes.
All the time.
He was.
Yeah. And his wife was very amusing also. They were a great couple. Although she never carved, I don't think.
No. I don't
know.
It seemed like she sanded for him.
Okay,
Did she not?
That was it. She probably did. She probably helped. But
I know one time this Betty Beaver, we went out to Arkansas to take a class. And to keep down the expenses, we was going to sleep in the tent.
yes, I love it.
Next night we got a motel. wasn't as funny as we thought.
Oh, that's crazy. So you traveled Arkansas, Georgia, Alabama.
Yeah. Tennessee. Let's see.
Florida.
Yeah, I did. I went to Florida.
Okay. I need to remember that. And it would be carving clubs that would invite you?
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah, I got to see places I would have never got to go, if it wasn't for that.
Sure.
And I had, 2 or 3 different friends that would go with me, so I didn't have to go by myself.
Perfect.
But most of the time I stayed with people. I didn't have to stay in a motel, which was nice.
Yes, very nice. Very nice. It just expanded your friend base, too. Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You just make it look so easy. We're just watching Helen here carve this very delicate face. So pretty much the wood that you're using, Helen, is really the basswood.
Basswood. Yep.
Right.
We can get good white basswood from this guy I order it from in Minnesota, and works real good.
I hope everybody can see this. It's so beautiful. We should have Nolan here now. We could be
Yeah.
chatting things up here.
Yep.
I'm just in awe. I got to see your finished carvings for years, but I've never really seen you making them very often, except when you would demonstrate at Guild Fair occasionally.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
People loved it, too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're sanding, you have to use very delicate.
You do.
Yeah, to get in
just
there.
barely
'Cause
fold
you
up a
could
little.
just almost wipe away all those
Yes,
tiny,
you do. Yeah, a lot of
very
times.
delicate touch. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mary and Helen. I think we've got a lot of questions here from the audience. I have to tell you, your granddaughter is joining us. Did you know she was going to be here?
Heather?
Yeah, it sounds like, let's see.
Or Ashley?
Helen's granddaughter joining from Georgetown, Texas.
Yes, Heather.
All right.
Yep.
Okay,
Nice.
great.
She said she was going to watch it.
Well, good. Now you know she did.
Yeah.
And we also have Hope Brown's granddaughter, Beverly Evans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we've got people joining from Texas, Georgia, Ohio, Connecticut, Vermont, North Carolina, California, Colorado, Illinois, South Carolina, Montana, and Australia.
Good.
Yay, Helen. Yay. Internationally
Yeah.
renowned.
Yes.
Excellent.
Oh.
And Rosalind from Australia says, thank you for inspiring me. I use mostly chisels, but you've inspired me to have a go and get my knives out.
Good.
Awesome. That's
Yeah.
great.
Good. That's great.
And Jean McDonald says, you're looking good.
Okay, Jane McDonald's. Where's she from?
I'm not sure. Jean, tell us where you're from. She's coming to take a carving class.
Up in Ohio, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, she'll be here for a Santa carving class soon.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of fans on here. Everybody's saying hi, and that's so nice just to
Yeah.
watch you carve.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there have been a few questions about the tools that you're using.
Mhm.
Robin asked, how do you sharpen your carving tools? And can you just tell us a little bit about the tools you have?
My knife, I have a wet rock, a flat stone, diamond stone, and I sharpen the knife on that. The gouges, I have some wheels. One wheel has got rough sandpaper, one wheel has got fine sandpaper, and then one wheel's got leather, and then a buffing wheel. That's what I sharpen my gouges on.
Okay, and Robin asked, do you, let's see, no, Robin asked, what would you recommend for a beginner? So what type of carving, what type of wood, what type of tools?
Just a good carving knife. Don't go out and buy X-Acto knives or something that says that they come sharpened, because a lot of these knives, they say that, but they don't come, they're not sharp enough to carve with. Get a good sharp knife and start out with like a snowman ornament, things like that. Star. The stars are a little harder because of the sharp points. They break off real easy.
Okay, and Richard asked about good resource books or videos, and I did share some links to your books.
Yeah.
But where can people buy your books? Do you recommend those for beginners, or what else would you
Probably
recommend?
not. I would get, I'd get books for, you can get books for beginners. And another good book is How to Draw Animals by Jack Ham, I believe. And it's used to be about $9. It's a real good book. Shows you how to draw different animals and things.
We sold that book for years.
Yeah,
I've got a good one.
I've got one.
Yes.
Got one that fell all apart.
Right, right. Yeah.
I used it so much.
It was an excellent reference.
It is. It's a real good book.
Yeah. I don't think it's in print anymore.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
I'll take good care of mine then.
Yes, for sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll go back in print.
Yeah.
That happens
Yeah.
sometime. Oh, look at the sun on these coins.
Yeah.
And we do carry Helen's books in the craft shop, and they will ship them to you if you call the office and call the craft shop, and they'll send you her books. So Janet asked, what is that protection on your thumb?
It's vet wrap. I taught a class down in South Carolina one time, and I had this veterinarian take the class. And I said, where did you know, and he sent me, I bought a whole box of this, and I still have some. Real stingy with it now, but
yeah.
But that's where I get it. But you can go to Walmart, and over there where you get this wrap to go on your arms or something, you can get that, and it makes a good...
it's a medical product.
Yeah.
It's not as good, I don't think,
No.
quite as good as what you have there. It's not as strong, but a lot of people use that.
Yeah, it does.
And the advantage is it molds to your finger.
Yeah.
So you really...
It does, yeah. And if you don't wrap it so tight, so you can keep putting it back on. And, it protects your thumb, because you're always cutting into it if you don't.
Sure. That's great.
So Sue asked, do you carve every day, and what inspires you to start a project?
When somebody orders something. That money.
Yeah.
Oh. No, when somebody orders, I try to get started. And I had a guy call me. He took classes here with me one time, Wade Wright, and we was demonstrating down in Dahlonega one year, and I was carving on the old wood chopper.
Yes.
So he has ordered that wood chopper. I haven't started on it yet.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
It is.
I love that. And I love the
Mhm.
chicken lady.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So here's a good question from Steve. Steve asked, are the Brasstown Carvers still an active group?
There's not many of us left. Me and Richard and Carolyn Anderson, yes.
And
yeah, that's Carolyn's St. Francis back there.
Yes.
And
Hoyt
Brown
is actually carving more than he used to. He used to turn more wood, but now he carves. Yeah, not many, really.
Yeah. He still does some deer, don't he? And
yes, he does
like
deer.
Yeah.
He does a lot of beautiful things.
Yeah.
The woodpecker back there is his. He does a lot of deer and birds and raccoons and a lot of just wild creatures from here. The turkey, that's his turkey back there as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, I wondered who's that.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
He loves hunting turkeys. So
Yeah.
now I started carving
Carving 'em.
more turkeys. Yeah.
Okay, now you referenced the carving night, the Brasstown Carvers teaching some younger carvers with Richard.
Yeah.
For people who don't know what that night is, can you tell us about it?
It's a Helvey knife, and I order them from a guy. He makes them up in Indiana or somewhere up in there. Right now, I've got 3 or 4 ordered. A friend of mine wanted some, and so he's not got it yet. He said he was so backed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's very backed up.
But it's a Helvey knife, and it comes sharp. You can get a detailed knife, and he'll send you if you can call him. Let's see, Holly and Rich, and I don't know their last names. I don't remember, but if you can get online and call them, they'll send you a printout of the different knives. You can get a detail knife, just all different sizes. Yeah, little. This is the rough out knife. And when I start with a new one, I start and I do a little at a time and use another one till I get it broke in, and then
Neat.
Yeah.
And
So,
they also, his handles. A lot of
Yeah,
people
you-
really love the handles because
Yep.
it fits. He has
Yeah.
different designs of handles which fit
Yeah.
into different
I used to
sizes.
like to get the little pencil handle. It was a little smaller, but this is a good feeling
Yes.
with this curve right here.
'Cause
Yep. So
they're
Yeah.
ergonomically.
and the little
designed.
dockyard tools is the carving glove guy, and his name is Don. But if you get online and print in dockyard tools, and you can get a set, the little one, the medium, small, tiny, small, and medium and large. They're probably $50 or $60 now for a set of.
A set of them. That's
Mhm.
very
Yeah.
reasonable.
When I first got them, Woodcarver
Yes.
give me that set,
Sure.
and I think they was about $29 then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're hard, kind of. Different people have started making them, and they're, it takes a little buffing sometimes to
Get them going.
get them done. And but
Yes.
I buff them all the time and
Okay.
keep them
Okay.
sharp.
And some people have asked, can you get those knives in the craft shop here?
Do they have them anymore?
Our issue with Healthy is just what Helen was describing. I've been retired for over 6 months, and we have had an order in with them.
Yeah.
And check in with them for a couple years, but because they make such a good knife, they are very much in demand, and they can't keep up. And both of them work other jobs because they're relatively young and have a family to raise.
They do.
And so that's kind of the juggling act of something like that happening.
But if you get on the computer and type in dockyard tools, a lot of places it'll come up. Woodcraft catalog, I think, still has them.
Yes, yeah. There's several catalogs that have them, but for us to get them for resale, they're
had to
more
get 'em-
prone to do it to individuals.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And Tammy Elwell is joining us, and she said they have Murphy knives and some flex cut, but not Helvey right now.
Well, the flex cut are good. When they get dull, they're real hard to sharpen, but they do come real sharp. And now the Murphy knives, they're a good knife, but you have to sharpen them when you get them. So you want to get somebody that kind of knows, how to sharpen. Yeah.
Yes.
And get you a leather strop then to strop it on. Yep.
And part of those Thursday night classes,
Yeah.
I think, is
Richard
would definitely always teach people how to.
Yeah, and he'd run over there on the wheel and touch it up.
Yeah.
And it's
It makes it easier.
You just need to talk to people that carve. If you go to a carving club and talk to people And they can give you more information and, you know, than anywhere. And there's carving clubs everywhere anymore.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. That's a great network.
It is.
So we're coming up on the end of our program, but before we go, people would like to see the baby that you just carved. Could you maybe set it next to the St. Francis, and then Nathan can kind of zoom in there. And while he does that, Helen, can you, Helen or Mary, can you leave it there so he can show it to everyone?
Right there?
Just set it right down there, yeah, and he'll kind of zoom in there and show it. And then can you tell everyone, if people did want to come, if they're not familiar with our Thursday night carving, or they wanted to learn from you, can they come to the Thursday night? Where is it? Does it cost?
It don't. Richard didn't charge anything. He just loved to do that, and he even sought out their blanks.
Yes.
For them if they, you know, wanted the blanks, and give them to them. Yeah.
And would really pay attention to each person and
would.
help them with their special problems. It's been suspended now, though.
Yeah, it'll probably be a while before
COVID,
that.
so I would think it will be a while. But I'm sure anybody who's interested in carving will hear about it from our website.
Yeah, so if you'll sign up for our e-news, follow us on social media, you will hear about that. It is free. It's on Thursday nights from 7 to whenever y'all get tired of talking. And it is a great experience. And it is helping to pass that tradition down.
It is. It really is.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mary and Helen, for taking your time. Thank you to the grandchildren, the family members, the visitors who joined today. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and it's an honor to be here with Helen. She's a wonderful carver.
Okay.